Hello, and welcome to the world of argumentation. So, what is the purpose of argumentation? Well, an argument may serve one or more of these purposes: to inform or present a position, to persuade in order to support a position, or to persuade you to take action against or for a certain cause, or to entertain an audience.
In addition, these purposes are often facilitated by rhetorical appeals, which are ethos, logos, and pathos. Ethos equals ethics. It is the appeal to authority, religion, ethics, morals, and honor code. Logos relies on truth, facts, and statistics. Logos equals logic. Pathos is derived from the word pathetic. It is the appeal to emotion. It appeals to feelings like fear, pity, anger, and sympathy.
Now, on to the language of argument. Before writing your argument, here's some terms that you should know. A claim refers to the thesis or purpose in an argument. It is an opinion that can be interpreted and justified. Grounds for an argument is both evidence and interpretation combined. You should have a strong grounds for your argument. A warrant is a belief, principle, or a rule that is stated or unstated in which underlies an argument. A major proposition is essentially the main purpose of an essay, with support for minor propositions. And finally, a refutation. It acknowledges the opposing viewpoint and counters it effectively to further persuade a reader.
There are some processes of reasoning that you should know before writing an argument: inductive and deductive reasoning. Induction is a process of reasoning where you develop evidence to come to a useful generalization. Inductive reasoning begins with a question or hypothesis, takes into account factual evidence, and ends with a conclusion. For example, a question: who stole the key to Miss Evans' final exam? Evidence: Shay was the last person to leave the room. Miss Youngman saw Shay standing by Miss Evans' desk after the bell rang. When Miss Evans came back, the test key was missing. Shay is failing the class, and she was the only one to get 100% on the test. Conclusion: Shay stole the test key. Instead of jumping to conclusions, use thorough evidence to back up a claim. On the other hand, we have deductive reasoning. Deduction is a process of reasoning which proceeds from something general to something particular. In this case, we use syllogisms, which basically means if A is true and B is true, then C also must be true. All syllogisms must be valid and sound. Valid meaning logical, sound meaning true. For example, humans cannot survive more than 3 days without water. Shay has been under rubble for 5 days without water. Therefore, Shay is probably dead.
Now, a failure in reasoning that renders an argument invalid is a fallacy. Some common examples of fallacies are ad hominems, false dilemmas, red herrings, slippery slopes, and to quote. An ad hominem is an attack on the person rather than the argument. A false dilemma establishes only two sides or possibilities. It is also known as the either-or fallacy or the black and white fallacy. A red herring is a distraction to mislead an audience or redirect a topic. The slippery slope fallacy describes one event that leads to a spiral of other events and consequence. To quote, meaning you too, appeals to hypocrisy, to shift the focus on the other person in an argument. Now for some plans and tips on writing your argument essay. On the exam, there will be an argumentative essay. Let's break the essay up into several parts. The introduction. Questions you should be asking when writing an introduction is: how will you get the reader's attention? How will you establish your credibility on the topic? And what is your thesis statement? You should start your introduction as a broad and general statement, then narrow it down and be more specific. You can imagine your introduction paragraph as an inverted triangle, your thesis statement being on the bottom. Next, the actual argument. You should briefly summarize the topic or argument of what you are writing about to give the reader context. Remember to use ethos, logos, and pathos appeals to support your argument. Ask yourself, what strong foundations do you have for your position? Did you include refutation? A refutation is also crucial when writing an argumentative essay because you are showing the reader why your position is better and explaining why theirs is not. You should also summarize the opposing argument's end. It will make you appear more credible for acknowledging other perspectives. Finally, the conclusion. The conclusion is the place where you wrap up your points nicely and remind your reader of them. You will explain the implication of your thesis here and establish what your readers should think or do after reading this. Make sure your conclusion concludes. Don't bring up new topics or ideas in it. You can also think of your conclusion as a triangle. At the top is a reminder of your thesis, and the bottom is a more general interpretation of the thesis and what it implies. You can connect your argument to the real world. For example,
you can use evidence. Your essay should provide a clear as well as logical link between the writer's claim, generalization, assertion, and the evidence. Some questions to consider before you add your evidence to your essay is the evidence typical and representative? Is it relevant and accurate? Is it sufficient and detailed? Your evidence should be all of these things. If it is not, then it is probably a good idea to look for some different evidence that better defends your thesis. In conclusion,
each of these elements that we have reviewed will always help you write a stronger argumentative essay.
From deciding a purpose and argument style to using specific rhetorical appeals and fallacies.
And tying it all together with supportive evidence makes an effective argument.